Mompreneurs, it's not business, baby. It's business and babies. Whether you're rocking the carpool line, building your business during nap time, or dreaming big after bedtime, we've got the tools, tips, and strategies to help you grow your business. Grab a snack, your headphones, and enjoy this time with us, because mom life and boss life deserve balance.
Armel is the founder and CEO of Trebble. He holds a bachelor's degree in software engineering from the University of Ottawa and has nearly a decade of experience in developing enterprise software. Before establishing Trebble, Armel worked as a software engineer for a startup in the telecom industry that was later acquired by Nokia. Armel is passionate about music, audio, and technology. He has a background in creating music sharing platforms and is dedicated to transforming the digital media landscape by making high-quality production tools accessible to all. In addition to his work with Trebble, Armel actively engages with the tech and creative communities, sharing insights on the future of podcasting, startups, and digital media innovation. For more information about Trebble and his offering, you can visit their official site, which will be in the show notes. Armel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. What a great introduction. I was blushing.
Yes, I am so excited because honestly, your app is how I edit my podcast. Before I did have an editor, but she went on to do bigger and better things. And I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do with my podcast? And boom, Trebble with its editing tools, with how you can drop in audio easily, you can record right into it. I was like, this is a masterpiece and people need to know about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always very, hearing people like you talk about the experience. That's actually part of the reason for doing what I do. So always happy to hear that.
So before we dive in, can you share a little bit about yourself in your own words? Because that was my intro to you, but I know you have a story.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure I'm going to top up your intro, but I'll try to give my own, probably a little bit toned. So yeah, my name is Armel. I'm the CEO of a company called Trebble. As you mentioned earlier, we mission is to make it easy for everyday people to edit audio and video content. But before that, I was an engineer. I've actually launched other startups before, one that was semi-successful in the music industry. But before that, actually, I started as an engineer. So I was a software engineer by trade, studied how to build, software, worked in the enterprise software telecommunication. Did it for a couple of years. I think I did it for 8 years. But one of the things that I personally were not always a fan of doing that work is the fact that you couldn't really see the impact of the work that you were doing. So you were, sitting in a cubicle. Yes, you were doing great work, but you couldn't really feel the impact. And that's actually part of the reason why I embarked on a journey of startups, because I wanted to, use my talent to make an impact in people's life. And what a better way than just doing your own startup. So yeah, let quit my job to be able to kind of focus on creating my own thing. And fast forward, I'm here.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure there was like bumps along the road, ups and downs.
Yes.
And I love a good story, and I could feel like this is going to be a really good story. What inspired you to quit your job? Other than making an impact, quitting your job and then going full time, did you have savings? Or was the business already doing great?
That's a good question. So a few things. So I started even before leaving my job. I know that everybody has a kind of like a genesis story. I think mine was I already started working on something while I was at work, so evening and weekends. And I was trying to find a way, because as you probably imagine, for more people listening, it's always like, okay, I want to do this. Maybe I don't like my job, but I like to do something different. How do I get there? So for me, it was simply, I had an opportunity, as sad as it sucks, but I was always kind of working on the side to try to develop it, try to build it, but there's just so much you can do when you do evening and weekends. And so I've applied to a program it was an incubator or accelerator, I think incubator accelerator for startups. And they were looking for 5 companies that could revolutionize the media or the journalism industry. I saw the opportunity. I thought, what I was working would be honestly great for it. I've applied, um, had an interview with them. They love what I was saying. And, they say, hey, we'll have to give you the opportunity. And we'll give you $100,000. I mean, it wasn't necessary to go full time because it was assuming, they wanted, it was a grant to kind of allow me to, do bigger things with what I was already doing. Now the quit condition is that you had to work full time. So, hey, I can keep working, maybe make more money next year, things like that. Or I can take a chance on myself, take the opportunity with, it wasn't like I started with nothing. I had a little grant to kind of get started, but I had to make the call to say, I can keep work on the side and weekends and, hoping to have, I'll see some kind of breakthrough that will, give me instant access to just leaving my job, or I can just take a chance, not necessarily know how things are going to turn out. But, take a chance and see, have the 100,000 was still some money. It's not like it can make you survive forever, but it gives you a little bit of room to take a chance yourself. So honestly, the 100,000 was really a little bit of money to take a chance on myself. So I thought, if I don't take a chance now on myself, then I might necessarily never gonna take a chance on myself. So I decided to take the chance, and honestly, it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, because I feel like if you ever have the opportunity to work on your own business, one of the things that you will learn quickly is that you continuously learn. So regardless of if the business grows or not, is successful or not, you certainly grow as a human. So the skills that you develop would probably transcend, past what you were doing anyway. So I think, very happy I took the chance at that time. And yeah, I'm here.
And that's incredible. I always say like entrepreneurship is a journey of self-discovery, because you notice that we kind of like hold ourselves back sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I like to know, because I've always had these moments that I had to like take that leap, or had to, decide whether I was going to take the risk or keep it safe. What was that day? What was the defining moment? What gave you like the aha, like, you know what? I can do this. Like, do you remember when you made that decision? Did you pray?
Yeah.
Did you ask for a sign?
I remember that day actually. For whatever reason, I'm the type of person I always remember important days. And I think it was a Wednesday. I'm at work. I'm getting that letter. I get an email. And honestly, I think I wasn't expecting the email. Obviously, they had to kind of give me a response. But, when I went to the interview, I know they were looking for people that were like bigger team, maybe raise money. But then I got the email saying, hey, like, we'd love to give you the opportunity. We selected you. And it wasn't a small thing, because they were doing it throughout whole Canada. And it was in partnership with Facebook. So it wasn't a small thing, I'll say that. So it was a nice opportunity. I get the email, and I remember thinking, wow, like, somebody's offering me a grant to keep working on this. And I thought of it. I remember, share with my family. I was like, hey, share with my brother, my dad. I was like, hey, like, I have this opportunity, but I'm not sure exactly if I should take it, right? Because also the thing that's interesting to know, which made the decision even more challenging, I'll say, at the time, is I've only worked in one startup before, right? So I didn't know anything. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I know some things, but how is that, again, am I going to be able to do it on my own? Like, how is that? What if it doesn't work, right? So how am I going to bounce back? And I'll share this part. It was interesting. So my manager at the time in the startup I was working on, so so first I thought of it, but then I thought one thing that came, the reason that made me make the decision, honestly, is that I realized this. I said, okay, what if I don't take the opportunity? Well, it's like, okay, I'm going to just keep working on this evening weekends. But what's the point of working on something evening weekends if, even if you had maybe a small opportunity, you wouldn't take it. So, and I have to share the fact that I was already working for more than a year. So it's like I work on it evening weekends. Everybody that knew me knew I was working on something. So it's like I invest all this time and now I get an opportunity. It might not be the opportunity that I wanted because maybe I want to raise money directly and being able to just, quit my job because I raise money or have a team and then I already have, 2, 3 ahead to kind of guarantee that I'm going to be able to kind of do this. That 100,000 was certainly not that. Like I said, I thought if I didn't take it, then I'll just be doing evening and weekends. But then what's the next step? After working on it another 6 or 8 months, what am I really expecting? And the truth of the matter is, I also knew 100,000 is not like life-changing money, but it's good money to start, especially because it was a grant. So it was no loan. Wasn't a loan. I could, it could allow me to de-risk the business without getting external capital. Even if I was to go into raise money myself, will probably take some time. So honestly, it just happened to be a great opportunity. If I ever wanted to take a chance, that was probably the best I could get. I was like, hey, maybe I can talk to my manager and tell them, hey, I have to do this thing and they give me this grant. Like I might just be away for 3 months and that's okay. And then my manager was like, no, we don't do that. So if you leave, you leave. So it's up to you. You let us know. But I still decided to leave because again, I thought I'll take a chance. And I think also part of the reason, like I said earlier, was, that was really the opportunity to do something different, to make an impact as well, right? So I think one of the things that I always believed was, work as an engineer was really good, and I still benefit from this to this day. But I have all the skills, I think, as a person, and I think, sometimes having a fixed job doesn't really give you opportunity to showcase what you know, right? So I give you an example, not that I'm very good, but like, let's say I was a great cook, but I work as a software engineer, like it wouldn't matter because I don't get paid to cook. I only get paid to write code, for example, right? So I think as a person, I always knew I was more of a multidisciplinary, what do you call it, like a horizontal person with a lot of skill in different things, but I couldn't really express in my job. So that was really the opportunity. So I had the call. So yeah, I received the news, thought of it, and realized this was the opportunity for me to make a change, and so I took it. As simple as that.
I don't think it was too simple, but I love the challenge because we all go through those challenges. We all face that fork in the road of whether we take the risk or we play it safe, including investing in ourselves. And I believe that's what you did. You invested in yourself. You said, you know what? I got the skills. I got the talent. I'm going to believe in myself, even though my boss doesn't, because obviously he doesn't see my skills and talents. He doesn't want to keep me.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. I love that. So I know that starting a company is not easy. In the program, what did they go over? Did they go over how to structure it? And one other question is, did they have like a piece of your company? Was it with that, or was it just a grant? Like, hey, this is for you.
Yeah, so it was just a grant, so which was also made it very appealing because it's like, okay, well, I'm not this tied to them. Just for transparency, the group's called DMZ, so they one of the probably even did the best incubator here in Canada. So the grant, so it was done in partnership with Facebook. I think Facebook technically was giving out the money, and so the programming. So there was no string attached. You get in, you get the money, and there was some courses on. They brought people from the journalist industry, people that have experience with marketing. Since it was with Facebook, we had access to some people at Facebook to kind of help us when it comes to, doing ads on Facebook and things like that. So, which is super important when you're building a business, marketing, the journalist industry. I think it was the main two things really around marketing. Not a lot of things around startup, but I had some experience before on the topic, so it wasn't necessarily. I mean, we can always learn, but I'm saying in this specific case, it was really around marketing and the journalist industry, and they offer like connections and people that you can talk to on different topics. So that was really nice too.
That was I think that was an opportunity of a lifetime. I'm surprised you thought about it for a bit.
I know, right?
That
So
sounds like.
I think you just to come back to what you said earlier. I think sometimes there's a fear of the unknown, right? So maybe I should state out. You didn't ask me the question. I come from parents that are very, you know, uh, work their job, not necessarily. My mom might be maybe I would say more entrepreneurial to some extent, but they always kind of like leave a very predictable, very risk averse life to some extent. So I grew up in that environment. So I think the challenge was more like going outside of that, right? When all you know is following the lines. But it was, yes, it was somehow of a, I think it's even sound maybe too good to be true to some extent. It's like, oh, like there's all these things that give me this opportunity. Like what if, right? But it worked out. So I'm very happy. No regret at all.
I'm also very happy that it worked out because absolutely love the app. I've been doing our last few episodes with it, and I've been editing. So I do have someone that edits kind of like the episode, but
Hmm.
I put in the music, I put in any extra notes in there, and I download the transcript. I kind of use ChatGPT to help me a little bit.
There you go.
So it's been incredible. The next question is like starting a business is difficult, and I'm sure you've gone through your ups and downs, as I
Hmm.
said before. But what has been one of the biggest lessons you've learned being a founder?
The biggest lesson I'll say, yes, you can outsource success. You can, good thing takes time. What do I mean by that? When I started, I thought, oh, in like 2 months, like I'm gonna do X, Y, Z, and bam, 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 it's just gonna work. In theory, that's what it sounds like, but in practice, that is not how it works. Um, Actually, like you said, I had ups and downs. You try things that didn't work, and but one thing that I realized, which was probably honestly, if I could share something with the audience here, is it's one thing that I started doing at the beginning is I will hire people to do things. I say, oh, you know what? I have a problem with marketing. How about I just bring this marketing expert and he'll fix it for me? And I'll tell you by experience, it has never worked. And it rarely works, especially when you're in the early days. And what I learned is you have to do the work a little bit. You have to understand a little bit of the work before you can outsource it to somebody, right? Which in retrospect makes sense. When you talk about a company or a startup, often in a startup there's a lot of variables. You're building the product, you're trying to make sales, trying to get people to know about the product. And, again, often what we tend to do, we tend to do what we're very good at, but often, especially at some point, is usually not the thing that you should be spending your time on. And we often try to avoid what we're not really good at. And naturally, want to just get somebody else that supposedly knows about it that we can just hire to fix it for us. But like I said, it rarely works. So you have to remember, even the person usually when they come in, they only here because you call them. They're gonna do their job, but no, honestly, very rarely, especially I think, and this advice only works mainly in early stage, because I think once the business starts running, and all the economics is there, then it's a little different, right? You things are already kind of figure out, a little bit what works, what doesn't work, what you need. Therefore, it makes it easier to grow, because you have the I guess the bones already ready to grow. But before that, if you try to grow or you try to hire somebody, it doesn't really work. So that was honestly my biggest lesson. I'm not sure how well I articulated it, but was the biggest lesson was really, try to learn a little bit about what you're trying to do. Let's say I have a marketing problem. And I'm like, hey, I'm not getting enough customer. Well, do a little research. Try to understand. And one thing I invite people to do, which I used to this day, is think from first principle. Okay, I have an audio video editor. People are not buying. Why are they not buying? Right? Try to understand, ask yourself the right question. And, sometimes it might be painful to ask yourself those questions, but you have to ask yourself the questions. Do a little bit of research. Okay, well, how do other companies do their marketing? How do they get in customers? What does work for, what doesn't work for them? How can I apply it to my business? This, for example, in this context, is if you had a problem with marketing, those are the things that you need to at least do before you go and try to hire somebody. Because if you hire somebody, actually also part of the challenge also when you run a business, you always have problems. So if you're thinking you're going to go to somebody going to fix it, you already first naturally honestly your target for anybody because you're desperate to just fix this problem. You don't want to do the work. So if somebody sounds like they can help you, you probably pay them and say, look, please fix it for me. But the reality is, like I said, especially in business, the toughest part to fix about the business are rarely the part you can outsource. Try to learn a little bit about what you're trying to do. Don't just try to find the solution to your problem. That's just hiring somebody. Because like I said, in the early stage of business, it rarely does work. And you have to dig a little bit deep yourself in order to find, honestly, the right person that can help you solve the problem.
I believe that that's incredibly powerful. I agree with you. There are some things that only we can do as the founders, as the entrepreneurs, that when we try to outsource, it just falls to pieces, right? Fun fact,
Mm-hmm.
I did sell cars back
Yeah.
like years ago.
Okay.
Yes. And so one of the things I did, so I was just for a few months there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I did when I first got hired as a salesperson, this person took, a risk, in hiring me because I was young, I was fresh, but I was a go-getter. And I remember one of the things that they said was, the people that come onto the lot, they're going to buy a car, whether they buy it from here or somewhere else, they're going to buy. So that was the first thing that they put in me is like, oh, every person that I come in contact is going to buy a car from me.
Yeah.
And because of that mentality, seriously, because of that mentality, I got my quota every month and I sold the car to every person I spoke to. But there was a secret involved. And the secret was because I didn't know much about the cars. It was at GMC and Buick. And I took all of their car brochures and I researched the cars before speaking to a single person. And because I knew, about the cars on the lot, whenever someone would come in, I would ask them, what are you looking for? And I was like, you know what? I think I have the perfect vehicle for you. Just let's check it out. And it has this on the mileage. It's a family if they're looking for a family. It's a family vehicle. It doesn't spend a lot of gas. It's like, you were talking about. You have to know your product. And that's one of the ththings that I've learned.
I want to say something about, first, let's just say you were a great salesperson. So, because a lot of salesperson might not necessarily do that, but you see, you had the right approach. The customer comes through, and you're not just trying to sell them. You're really first trying to make them ask themselves the right questions. So even if they didn't do the exercise, like I said, and it came to you, they'll have a great experience. Unfortunately, salespeople like you are very rare, right? Because they will sell you anything. If, like you said, like what did the manager say? The person that comes in, they're going to buy a car, right? So imagine you're a business owner, you go to somebody doing marketing, you say, I have a marketing problem. You are here to buy. So it's not honestly very difficult to get you to buy, but if you're the person buying, you might be making the wrong decision. So in your case, I think as a salesperson, you were helping the person making the right decision, despite the fact that they might not necessarily know what they're looking for, or they might even take advantage. So shout out to you.
Well, thank you. I actually sold 2 cars to one person. First, they bought a Corvette and they were like, well, this is not really economic for me. I need to switch it out. And then they bought one that was better for them, better suited. Yeah. Because she was like wanting to hit the road. She loved it. And she bought it through me again. So I think it's really about knowing what people want, because maybe someone wants something, but it might not be the best fit, like you were talking about. So there's definitely examples of that, which you end up kind of like buying more or spending more money.
Absolutely.
What was one of the hardest decisions you've had to make in your business?
You're asking me tough questions. I think one thing I could share is really changing / pivoting / closing the business. I'm sure you're going to ask the details, so I'll give you the details right away. I started when I got the grant, and I started a business. It was actually a different product. It was a platform for helping people publish content on Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant. It did well for a while, but it started dying down. There was tons of problems. I'm not going to go here in details, but let's just say there were a couple was roadblocks that really made it difficult to kind of foresee a future. So I kept going, kept trying different things, but I can tell it wasn't necessarily going the way I thought others try. So at some point, I had to make the tough call to say, hey, do I want to keep doing this? It was a half tough decision, I guess, because I didn't have to go full in closing, but I had to completely change direction. Right. After investing, probably I'll say like a year, half, 2 years, something, and then say, hey, like maybe I have to turn around and go somewhere different. That was probably one of the most challenging thing I had to do as a founder that I can reveal.
I like the part that you said that you can reveal.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's been tougher decisions. Pivoting.
Yeah.
Closing down. Those are always tough, especially when we put so much in the game, so
Absolutely.
much, we got skin in the game, we got investments in it. And it's like, when do we cut the ties?
Yeah.
How did you figure it out?
I wish I had like a genius way to figure out, but it was not that genius. What I did was maybe help cheat my mental a little bit was that I honestly just started, looking around. I mean, I was still focused on what I was doing, but I really started exploring what else can I do? It's kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. The good news, and maybe that's kind of where the intuition came in, is that having worked in the audio space for more than 2 years, I came across a few problems. And one of the problem was editing. But the reason I never really thought of honestly solving it, I'll be very transparent here, because I always felt like it was a small problem. It wasn't like a massive industry. And, like somebody else would do it, not me. It's too small to kind of go in, and, there's too much competition and the market seems to be small. But it was a problem. It was a problem that I've experienced. But again, I always thought somebody else would do it. It's not me. I'm sure somebody's working on it. I don't need to work on it. But again, just to come back to how I made the decision, I remember it was Christmas. I can't remember which year. And I thought it happened that I was in a situation where in that business, I needed now people to create content. And now the editing itself was being my biggest roadblock. It's like, okay, I want people to create content, but they can't because it's difficult to edit. Everybody I'm talking to, they say, I'm looking for an editor. I need to hire an editor. Say, no, it's not that difficult. You can do it yourself. But then I got frustrated because I was getting people that were frustrated that didn't want to edit because it was too hard. They say, oh, I'm going to have to pay somebody. I don't know. It's too confusing. Like, I don't know. I don't want to do it. I was so frustrated that I said, well, I know this has been a problem. I've heard so many people complain about it. I wish somebody can do something that makes it easy for people to edit so that they can use this other product that I have, right? And so I said, you know what? I've heard about this enough. Let me give it a try. Let me try to come up with something and see if, maybe I can come up with something simpler, better, just an experimentation. And so I think over the Christmas of I can't remember which year, like 2 years ago, I tried to build like a prototype. Then I went to a few people. I say, hey, check out this thing. What do you think? And I have to say, and I'll be honest about this, I never said that actually out loud on the podcast for sure. It was the first time that I had a product and people were like, oh, well, I love this. Can you also do X, Y, Z? I was like, well, I thought I had a little bit more convincing to do. But no convincing. No convincing to do. It was more requests, demands. Can you do this? Can you do that? Well, I was like, well, I just start. I mean, I can, but just start it. And honestly, the truth is that is what really kind of got me to say, I just got to go this direction. Right. Not I'll have to say I was a little lucky because it's not always the opportunity, the door again that you get that makes you make decisions. Sometimes you don't see the door, you still have to take it. But I was a little lucky in this one.
That was an incredible story of having to let go of something and then having that birth. Like a birthing process. You went
Pretty
through the
much.
pain.
It's like a funeral and a birth at the same time.
Yes, resurrection. That's incredible. One of the things I want to ask with that is it was an easy yes, right? For your people.
Yeah.
Where the other one you had to do more convincing and more,
Yeah.
not convincing, let me not use that word.
No,
but
pretty bad. We'll just use convincing. We understand what you mean. A
yeah,
little bit more convincing,
more
a little
selling.
more selling. Exactly.
Okay. But this one, it was just accepted right away and even given feedback without having to prompt feedback.
Absolutely. That's usually
I think
when you
that's
know something is working.
Yes. And that's a testimony on you listening to your potential customers and clients. Like you listening to the people that you're serving, because you actually did it. You served and then you listened. And then
Absolutely.
here we are.
And here we are. And one thing I want to share is also, come back to my first learning, good things takes time. If I stopped too early, I wouldn't be here. Because if I thought, okay, this is going to take 3 months, and if this doesn't work in 3 months, then I'm out of here. But one thing that I've learned is that sometimes it looks like an overnight. I mean, you probably heard that before. It looks like an overnight success, but it's actually never an overnight success, right? So it's usually when the light shines on you, it's because of all the other things that, there was no light on you, and then all the things that you had to develop. Like you mentioned, for example, be able to listen to the customer, right? Be able to understand, or, really, because I think, and that's probably I'll say a temptation that most entrepreneur falls in is, we often have a clear idea of why we want to do what we want to do. But the reality often also is that whatever we have in mind, it might not be the right thing. So we have to stay flexible and we have to listen. Listen to what they want and then see if you can reconcile something based on what you want to do. And hopefully you can find some kind of common ground that you can work from. That is usually, honestly, some of the best way to, get your business to kind of go in the right direction.
I want to say that is where impact happens, right?
Yeah.
What you just said right there about sacrificing what you want to do and listening to others and serving others in that capacity. And that's where potentially you'll gain success.
Absolutely. And maybe to reconcile the people that might not be able to make the jump, it doesn't mean that maybe what you had in mind was wrong. It might just mean that how you go about it or how you approach it might change. But I hope as you maybe you're on your business, even if it's not a business, whatever you're doing, you want to make an impact. You want to help people. So you can't really go wrong by, listening to the people and, slightly changing. You might have, honestly, a vision, to be fair, that maybe the people don't necessarily comprehend as you speak to them. That's okay. And it doesn't negate that. But even if you had a fast forward vision that you're trying to accomplish with your business, you got to go there step by step.
I like that because, like you said, you first started with something that, it was very hard to kind of sell, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But then after listening and actually pivoting, you asked yourself a couple of questions before you did that, like, oh, it's going to be someone else to do it. You said, right? And that stopped you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Oh, who am I to do? Because those are the questions that we get when we do listen to our audience and we think, well, who am I to create that? Like, I understand what they're saying that they want from me, but am I really the right person to give them that?
Yeah.
Is that the same problem that you faced?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it was slightly similar. It was, I felt like there was other people doing it. I felt like it's the sad part, to say in retrospect, that it's kind of like I minimized the problem to some extent. I said, yeah, it's a problem, but it's not a problem that I can put my time on. Like, it's just so, other people are doing it, not me, right? Because I was so also invested in my vision. I was like, well, this is, in my vision, somebody else fixed this problem. They fix it and I just take over from there. But like I said, after 3 years, nobody fixed that. So my vision couldn't move anyway because nobody's fixing it anyway. So I had to take it on myself.
I think this episode is going to speak to a lot of people because it's even speaking to me because I'm, currently in kind of like a crossroads of like what I can do and what I should do. But I do believe in listening and that's very powerful. So you gave us like some golden nuggets right there. I'm going to ask this question because I feel like it's a question that people always ask. And it's like, what's one trend in content creation that you think people aren't paying enough attention to?
That's some tough questions.
You think so?
No, it's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, you're asking great question. I'll just put it like that. Don't say tough, great question. So I'm going to give the easy answer. Obviously, AI is really the trend. But I think when it comes to content creation, what I don't see more of, and I think we're gonna have to see more of that in the probably next year or two, is more authenticity, more care, and more meaning towards content. There's plenty of content out there that's around entertainment, but I think we also live in a world today where there's a lot of problems. People have a lot of problems, and so they need help. So I think, at least I think what we see a little bit of that I think there's going to be more and more content that is really centered, that is centered less on just entertainment. Maybe it will be a little bit of a dap of entertainment, but more with a focus of kind of helping people personalize, like more content that is personalized or personalizable for people, right? There's a lot of content today, but a lot of them are very generic. I'll see sometimes even lack, not offer a lot of critical thinking, just more thoughtful and helpful personalized content. Not just the answer that you wanted, but I think with AI, I think we're going to see certainly more of that. Now, what's the time frame for it? Maybe I'll say a year or two. So if you're creating content, and that's just honestly valid for anybody that's creating content today, tomorrow, forever, I think you often want to think about, who am I helping? What is the value? I know it's cool to go viral, and it's nothing wrong with going viral. Actually, if you can go viral, please do. just understand it's just not a means to an end necessarily. But what I was saying is, if you want to ask yourself, is the content helping? How is that helping? What is my goal with this content? Okay, I might have a coaching business, or I might have a sales business or teaching business, whatever the business is. But just don't create content to create content because everybody's creating content. It's true, people consume a lot of content. But if you just create content because people create content and because you think of maybe your end goal with maybe your business or your goals, you want to first think about, again, we talked about it earlier already, but I guess even in content, I think it's just going to continue to be a trend. Think about, what is the person on the other side getting from this? When I create this piece of content, what do I want the person to get out of it? You're going to have a little bit more time on your hand to really think about the impact of what they create, how they create it, and what the goal they want with the content.
I love that because it's so spot on. And I realized that also within my own business in using AI, how you were talking about is, it's about impact. It's
Yeah.
really not the other stuff, may come, but it's really about the impact that you're making in another person's life than it is about content, quantity or quality. It's about more of the quality and having that intentionality behind your work. I've noticed
Absolutely.
if things don't have intention, they don't go viral. They don't
Yeah.
get likes. They don't get comments because it falls flat because we can actually feel each other, even though we kind of miss out on those, right? We think like,
Hmm.
oh, life is just what we see, but there's actually a deeper spiritual nature. We're more than what we see. We're more than, our physical bodies, right? We're spirit. We're
Absolutely.
spiritual beings as well. Thank you. That's so good. So we have only a few more minutes, and I wanted to ask you some cool
Hmm.
questions over here that I just haven't got into. But before I let you go, I like to do now a rapid fire round.
Okay.
So, all right, are you ready? You
I'm
gotta
ready. Let's
answer
go.
these quick.
I'm gonna
All right,
move
let's
it quick.
go. Coffee or tea?
T.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
One book every entrepreneur should read.
0 to 1. From
Ooh.
forgot the name, but 0 to 1.
All right, that's good. Favorite productivity tool or app? Trouble. Other
Travel.
than trouble.
Actually, I'm just thinking that I want to be useful. Productivity. I'll say ChatGPT/Claude. It really is the game changer for me. Just 'cause
Claude?
Claude. Actually, I'll go for Claude. By the way, I say ChatGPT. Not that ChatGPT is cool. Claude's better.
Whoa, I'm gonna check that one out.
You should.
If you weren't an entrepreneur, what would you be doing? Cooking? Selling
Love
cars?
food. I love cars too. Actually, you know what? I think I will have. I would love to be a pilot.
Wow. Okay. One thing you do daily that helps with success?
Only focusing on what I need to do in the short term.
Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Hard work pays off.
What's a fun fact about you that most people don't know?
So many. I want to give you a good one. So if you give me 5 seconds, I'll pick one. I grew up in Cameroon, a small country, great country though, in Central Africa. I think that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yes. Armel, where can people find you?
Well, I am on social media, although I'm not the most active. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. I guess people call it X. I still call it Twitter, unfortunately. Facebook, Instagram, all the social media. But I'm certainly more active on. I'm so active. I'm more of a. I read tweets on Twitter and LinkedIn, so you can find me there. And obviously, if you go on the Trebble website, you certainly can find me.
I noticed Twitter and LinkedIn has the most clicks like I get the most clicks and views from Twitter and LinkedIn. But you need to get on Instagram. Okay. I noticed Trouble's not on Instagram.
I think that's good feedback for me. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Working on it actually, so it's cool.